past Wednesday, members of the Student Government Association headed to Richmond, Virginia to speak at the state capitol with lawmakers coming up with new proposals and legislations that affect young people like the student body here at JMU. I'm joined by two of those SGA members now, Eric Kaufman and Ben Goodson. Thank you guys for coming out.
Our pleasure.
Appreciate it. All right, first question. Which bills were you two personally most involved in discussing with the lawmakers?
I know I was involved with two pieces of legislation. One, a specific bill that we were opposed to that was going to make it harder for universities to access financial aid from the General Assembly. Essentially, it required any university in the Commonwealth that wanted financial aid for its students to present proof that every student needed that financial aid, either through FAFSA or other types of documents. And given what a mess FAFSA is, as well as financial aid in general, we were very opposed to that legislation. And we don't believe it's going to get passed because we spoke our voices. Also, in a more general sense, I was very involved with convincing lawmakers that JMU needs more additional funding. JMU has always kept its tuition rates low compared to rest of universities around the Commonwealth, and so we believe we deserve additional funding for keeping our rates low.
What about you, Ben?
Two bills that I was concerned with was the proposed I-81 tolls that would pose a massive roadblock to students here at JMU. As we all know, that we have students ranging from the New England and New Jersey to Philly areas, and that would affect them coming down greatly going down the I-81 corridor.
Right, now you mentioned the tolls, you mentioned the FAFSA. I mean, just looking at this list, bills to increase minimum wage incrementally, public comment on period on raising tuition rates, these are all issues that affect us. They affect everybody here, the student body. So why is it important when it comes to the civic process for the younger constituency to get involved, to speak out like you guys are?
Well, student voices are often unheard of in Richmond and in state capitals across the country. So for student government and for university leaders, student leaders to be involved is critical for us to have our voices heard and our perspectives heard. That we are as much a part of this process, and legislation in Richmond affects us just as much as it does a 50-year-old in Charlottesville. It's critical that student voices be heard, and this trip was one way to prove to legislators that students are involved in the process, and we want to help them, making sure that our voices are heard and our perspectives are heard as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything Eric just said right there. Coming to college, I really wasn't involved with anything political, and having the ability to have my voice heard and going down and talking with delegates, meeting with their constituents, really just allowed me to open my viewpoint and perspective, and I hope everyone takes that note here that you should get involved in politics.
So real quick before we wrap up, if anybody wants to get involved in SGA, wants to get involved in the civic process, how should they do that?
So we actually have student government elections coming up here in the next couple of weeks for student body president as well as other executive council members, and then a few weeks after that we'll also be having elections for senators in SGA as well as class council, and we'll also be doing a trip to Washington DC in the next couple of weeks that we'll be putting out applications for the student body at large. So those are both incredible ways to be involved to make sure your voices are heard.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for being here. We really appreciate it. Like he said, if you want to get involved in SGA, there are plenty of opportunities, and we can continue to be involved in the civic process as college students.